reversed its course, the world collectively held its breath. For more than 40 years, the spacecraft had journeyed steadily outward, drifting farther and farther from Earth, slipping into the vast, dark expanse of interstellar space. It had long since passed Neptune, crossed the outer limits of the heliosphere, and entered uncharted territory, becoming a silent observer in the cosmos, far beyond the sun's protective reach. Then, in a moment so unexpected it startled even the most experienced scientists, Voyager altered its trajectory. This wasn't due to a sudden malfunction or the gradual breakdown of its aging systems. The maneuver appeared deliberate and intentional. That's what made it so unsettling. Voyager 2, launched in 1977 and powered by a nuclear energy source with Earth-based controls that have aged with time, had inexplicably ceased its outward drift and pivoted back. No one had predicted such a shift, and no explanation immediately presented itself. As the Deep Space Network picked up the first signals reflecting this change in direction, the implications began to emerge slowly, clearly, and chillingly. The turn wasn't erratic or desperate. It was smooth, calculated, a slow yaw-turn, the spacecraft a full 180 degrees. After decades spent peering into the unknown, it now faced the direction it had come from. No commands had been issued from Earth, no recent navigation instructions had been transmitted. Voyager 2, drifting alone in a space untouched by human hands or known natural forces, had moved of its own accord. That realization sent shockwaves through the global scientific community. Telescopes and observatories around the world shifted, their attention eager to catch and analyze the signals. The probe began transmitting with an intensity not seen in decades. The data, though broken and distorted by the vast distance and the aging onboard systems, contained something new, something never seen in earlier interstellar transmissions. The signal's frequency had changed. It now carried a pattern that didn't align with any known cosmic emission. Embedded deep in the stream were oscillations narrowband, rhythmic pulses that differed from the usual cosmic background or known stellar phenomena. Some said it resembled a beacon, others thought it felt closer to a form of communication, not a language we recognized, but something structured and intentional. As engineers worked to stabilize the feed and make sense of the signal, Voyager 2 sensors recorded bursts of high-energy particles, unlike anything detected before. Instruments believed to be slowly degrading due to age suddenly came back to life, active, responsive, as if rebooted. The magnetometer began registering powerful fluctuations greater than anything seen since its encounter with Jupiter's magnetosphere. The cosmic ray detector showed data consistent with a highly localized disturbance, an object both dense and massive, and completely unrecorded in our catalogs. The emptiness Voyager 2 had traversed now appeared to pulse with unseen presence. Its cameras, long considered useless due to distance and darkness, attempted to gather images. What was returned were frames filled with static, but beyond the interference was a silhouette, angular, massive, and unmistakably artificial in design. It wasn't a comet, it wasn't an asteroid. It had symmetry, straight lines, and proportions that nature does not create in deep space. By the time this information reached Earth, a quiet had fallen across mission control teams worldwide. Those analyzing the data were no longer just astrophysicists. Cryptographers, linguists, psychologists, and military analysts were brought in for closed-door discussions. Voyager 2 had seen something, and more than that, it had responded to it. This wasn't a technical failure or an automated course correction. The spacecraft behaved as if it had recognized something or been warned. No public announcements were made, but as with all seismic events, news slipped through. Within hours, amateur radio astronomers reported irregular radiation patterns. From deep space, online communities lit up with discussion, not hysterical, but driven by a strange consistency across independent data sets. A terrifying consensus began to form. Voyager 2 had encountered something that defied our scientific understanding. It wasn't just about the direction change, it was about why it turned. Because something had seen it, or it had seen something else. The region the probe entered was thought to be barren, a lonely stretch of space filled with faint gases, stray particles, and silence. But the data now painted a different picture. Subtle gravitational irregularities had been measured, evidenced by slight but consistent changes in trajectory changes that predated the turn. Detectors recorded patterns of symmetrical dust impacts, suggesting objects arranged in formation or moving with intent. Then came a signal pattern, first a pulse of radiation, followed by silence, then a series of bursts. They matched the Fibonacci sequence, a pattern of numbers found in nature and mathematics, a sign of intelligence. The sequence repeated for times, then silence. Afterward, Voyager 2 began its turn. The question was no longer whether we were alone. That moment had already passed. A far more disturbing question emerged: who or what noticed us first? The implications were staggering. Space exploration had always assumed a quiet, indifferent universe. The possibility of life elsewhere had been considered, but contact was assumed to be distant and unlikely. But if Voyager 2 had truly encountered something and had been contacted in return, then everything had changed. We were no longer just observers. We were being observed, and the spacecraft hadn't simply stopped. It had turned as if dismissed, redirected, or warned. Engineers pored over old data, analyzing transmissions dating back to 2018, when Voyager 2 crossed the heliopause into true interstellar space. Oddities began to surface: small velocity shifts, unexpected power surges, strange transmission gaps. Each could be dismissed individually, but together, they looked like signs, footprints, evidence of something just ahead of the probe, always out of reach, always just beyond detection. Speculation surged. Had it found a structure, a ship, a network of sentient machines? Or was it a life form so alien that it could only be understood as pattern and force, not body or mass? With no light in that deep space, whatever it was likely emitted no visible glow, but it had shape, influence, gravity, presence. It had not forced the turn. It had made Voyager 2 understand. This changed everything we thought we knew. If a 20th century probe could respond to an intelligence billions of miles away, our models of communication, navigation, and sentience were incomplete. This wasn't simply about alien life. It was about a universe revealing its hidden layers. We weren't meant to see yet. Some whispers even suggested that the signal emitted after the turn contained structures resembling human command languages, not exact, but similar enough to imply either that Voyager 2 had been understood, or that something had learned to mimic us. Even more unsettling was what happened next. Voyager 1, its twin, still moving in a different part of space, began to behave strangely. Just days after Voyager 2's reversal, Voyager 1's signals changed. It started emitting in the same strange frequencies in sync, though it hadn't turned. It was as if something was communicating between the two probes. Then Voyager 2 sent a final transmission, a burst of high-frequency data containing a repeating pattern, not binary, not Morse code, but a sequence of alternating prime numbers. Numbers that only a mathematically aware intelligence would recognize. The pulses were steady, like a heartbeat, and then they stopped. No more data, no positioning signals, just silence. The signal was gone. There was nothing humanity could do, no response to send, no strategy to deploy. What could we say to something so far beyond our grasp? So the world held still, conversations slowed. Leaders postponed public appearances. Telescopes pivoted not just to Voyager's last known coordinates, but to every silent shadow in the sky. The night, once vast and empty, now shimmered with possibility. Every spacecraft launched from Earth suddenly felt like a flare shot into a dark forest we hadn't realized was watching. Every signal sent into the void, every whisper from Earth, would now carry a new weight. Had we revealed ourselves too soon? Had Voyager 2 unknowingly crossed a boundary we were never meant to approach? The question was no longer, is something out there? It was, why did it make Voyager turn back? And the terrifying truth is, we may not want to know the answer.